Hey guys, it's your boy M.K.S. Finally back with another video. Sorry, I say finally. I only made videos last night, but anyway, it's taken me a while to get around to making this video though today. It's 10 past 11 here in the UK, but this is from last week. Last week's videos, where I didn't quite get around to finishing them. So anyway, please check out part one if you haven't done so. As per usual, this is one of my list videos where I talk about 30 ideas or points on a particular topic or whatnot, and I usually chop them up into 3 different videos so they're not too long. So please check out part 1 if you'd be so kind, if you haven't already done so, and look out for part 3 when it comes out, all being well soon. And I hope you enjoy it, and as ever I welcome your support, welcome your views, new subscribers I definitely welcome, shares, liking the video, and that sort of thing. And anyway, so here goes. So I'll say this is continuing on from part 1, where I discussed 10 ideas, and I wish to discuss 10 more. I think there were a few things I forgot to say or whatever, but anywho, here goes. Hopefully by as soon as possible I will be able to cover all my ideas and promote them and work on them as best as possible and look at ways to put them into practice or action, whichever term you prefer. So here goes. So number 11, I would love to do sponsored walks for charity where I raise funds for a specific cause, whether that be cancer research, helping the homeless, helping disabled people around the world, helping people with mental health problems, helping people with to raise awareness of something, or helping to fundraise for whatever cause I believe in. A bit of a controversial term, and I've talked about this before, but as someone who's a pacifist / conscientious objector, who's not a big fan of violence unless in self-defense or defense of the vulnerable or whatever, I would not fundraise for anything that's I think is military or anything like that. But having said that, I suppose if I support people who are in prison to reform their lives, and support homeless people and people who are either physically, mentally, and stroke or learning disabled, I'm 2 of those myself. But yeah, if I support those sorts of people, then I suppose ex-military people would be part of that, but they would not be my main priority. I know it's a bit controversial, but I would support anyone who's got those problems if I can. Again, so basically doing walks for charity, as long as I know the money does reach those who need it, and as long as I believe in the cause that it fundraises for. Things like peace projects could be another example, and things like, and even Italian football and Celtic from a more selfish point of view, perhaps. Anywho, moving on. Yeah, so basically going for sponsored walks and that sort of thing. Number 12, talking about being against war and a worldwide movement against war. I've heard quotes like, I'd love to share anti-military or pro-pacifist / conscientious object quotes, such as, for instance, for the next war, no one should turn up. So I discourage people from joining militaries, gangs, terrorism, violence, or anything like that, or crime or criminality, anything illegal or anything that involves violence, or again, even militarism, which is legal. Also joining gangs or terrorism, which is obviously illegal. But yeah, I discourage anything like that which is about violence without self-defense, even if the government allows such. I mean, I think countries should be able to defend themselves, but I don't believe they should be able to invade people, especially based on lies, which many people would say the Iraq War was, for instance, and actually internationally was illegal. So we had one country, or several countries like America and the UK, possibly Australia and others, some European nations as well, who approved something that was illegal internationally. So in many ways, as far as I'm aware, the Iraq War and things like that were illegal anyway. But even if they were illegal, if I believed it was invading another nation for territory, like colonialism, as an anti-imperialist as well, I disagree with those sorts of things. So I think it'd be better to use. I'd also love to. I think it's a shame also that countries are, which is one of the reasons for the title of the video, talking about water, not wars, and things like that. Instead of weapons, we can provide water for people. And I think if the US military on its own, if they cut back on their military expenditure by just about 10%, I think they could provide water for pretty much everyone, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Financially, again, it would depend if projects, because sometimes I don't trust the charities as well, because I think that the people who run charities sometimes pocket a lot of the money, and I do wonder if the money actually goes to the right place. So I'm a bit wary about that, and that's why I said about in point number 11 about ensuring that it actually does go to those in need. But yeah, so if I would love to see, like in international cooperation, where there's a 10% cut on, or even a 10% tax. Normally I don't like taxes, but since the money itself comes from tax anyway, I'd rather be used on, if we're going to tax people, I'd rather be used on on water, food, shelter, supporting the poor, and things like that, rather than be used on wars and weapons and militarism, which actually makes more people poor. So, especially in developing countries. So I think it would be great to have a 10% tax on all militaries around the world and all weapons expenditure and things like that. So yeah, if it's an international cooperation which could ensure that all countries do this, because if some countries decide not to do it, then and they couldn't be made to do so by law, then I suppose it would mean that other countries would have an excuse not to do it. So I hope it will be, I sort of dream for it to be, pray and dream for it to be like an international cooperation to cut back on military expenditure, as I say, by 10%, to tax militaries maybe even by 10%, and the weapons trade, which won't make me very popular with the weapons trade, I know, but yeah, I think it'd be great if the international community came together and supported that, so we could use that money to spend on water and shelter and food and providing the most poor people around. With that support, I think another thing I forgot to say in the first part of my video, or my first video on this topic, was point number 10 was going to be supporting the 10% poorest people in all possible countries. I'm not sure if I mentioned that or not. I can't quite remember. I didn't really check the last video. Anyway, moving on, number 13. I think it's such a shame that now with the war between Russia and Ukraine and other potential conflicts, so many countries around the world are ramping up their militaries and spending even more on militarism, which I think is such a shame, because I've had this idea for a long time and I wish I could have put it into practice a long time ago, but to tax the wars, weapons trade and things like that, and tax worldwide militaries and weapons trade mainly by 10%, and to give that money to charity. So I think that it is such a shame that, as I say, I'm normally not a big fan of raising taxes, but because that money comes from tax, as I say, I think it would be better to be spent on the poor and things like that, rather than, if we are going to have taxes and higher taxes or stuff like that, which normally I'd love to lower taxes, but I suppose they are a necessary evil, or at least a necessary bad. Anyway, moving on, number 14. Again, I'd love to promote the idea that the international community will cooperate on taxing the worldwide militaries and weapons trade by 10%, and again, spending that on supporting the homeless and disabled and disadvantaged people around the world, 10% poor people in all possible countries, and peace programs and things like that. So, or that sort of thing. So basically, using that money to make the world a better place and a more peaceful place, rather than spending on wars. So maybe it's a pipe dream of mine, but I think if enough people come together and support that, and the international community itself agrees upon that, and people perhaps have to put pressure on political leaders so that they would agree on that, and question those who don't want to agree on that, and talk about putting pressure on them to say that they're not supporting peace or tackling poverty by increasing military spending and weapons spending, rather than actual support of the poor. Number 15, again, I hope to look into all possible ways to support disadvantaged people around the world, and that sort of thing. Number 16, I hope to hear from other people's ideas, and like perhaps committees, think tanks, cooperatives, and networks, which, or whatever you want to call them. I use those terms interchangeably. Look at how to at the best ways to tackle poverty and wars and things like that, and how cutting back on wars can help poorer people. Like, for instance, those who are affected by war zones, especially in developing countries, are normally pushed into financial difficulties because of that, or even poverty because of that, and also how it's raising our prices. Even here in Europe and around the world, there's energy prices going up, and I think a lot of people are happy to see wars because it's making them money, but I think we should put pressure on them to ensure that the people stand up against such wars. And for me personally, as I say, I don't believe in joining militaries or gangs or terrorism or anything to do with violence or anything like that, because, and I think maybe even talking about religious groups, even if they disagree on many things, and that sort of thing. They could come together to tackle poverty and tackle wars and things like that. Number 17, yeah, maybe some of my ideas are out there and outlandish, but I hope to also look into how my writing and works generally, my actions and things like that, hopefully can make the world a better place and help tackle poverty. Number 18, I would love to support positive projects, such as supporting women, especially in developing countries, to get into writing, to publish their own writing, and to be involved in art, and to encourage, as I say, those women from developing countries across Africa and Asia and places like that to get into art and poetry and things like that, to be empowered through those areas and express their opinions and ideas, and former colonies also to, or people from colonies to be able to do so and be empowered. Number 19, I would love to support women from Africa, especially in STEM, as I've talked before about. And number 20, again, I'd love to work on so many projects like that, and hopefully over time I'll be able to do so. And sorry if this video went a bit over the top, well, in terms of time, or over the length I would have planned for it to do so. I know I covered some of the points in a bit of an excessive detail perhaps, but I did want to do it in about 10 minutes. But anyway, if you made it this far, I really appreciate it, and I am out. Peace and love.